I am joining today from rural Alberta, Canada, and it has been a shift, a recent shift, where Jazz and I were spending the last 2 years doing life together in Rajasthan at Hada House, and thankfully that has blossomed and grown and deepened in a lot of really powerful ways, and we choose to still be connected to each other. And so I am honored to be with you and be discussing things for Curated consciously that we want to bring out to the community and to join in conversation.
Yes. And I am like so excited that I'm going to just be picking your brain constantly. Kelsey is just one of these phenomenal humans that can break down complex topics and make it easy to absorb and consume and actually implement into your daily lifestyle. Kelsey is one of the most incredible facilitators I know. Kelsey's actually developed not only programs under the Hotter World umbrella, but also we work together with Operation Groundswell, an amazing nonprofit experiential travel organization based in Toronto, where I'm from. And we were working together here in India, which led us on this journey to developing Hada House together, which is my zero waste guest house here in India, which of course is not running currently because of all the bullshit of 2020 and COVID. And we'll get into another episode again on tourism because that's another topic we love to talk about. But today, I want to talk about body image. I, as a mixed race female, I'm finally seeing myself represented in mainstream media, like big butts and like curvy shapes. And, the idea of just having curly hair is like now super cool, and freckles. And, I remember reflecting on this last year when I was doing a lot of like some modeling stuff. And, I realized that I was, people wanted to have me represent their brands because this unique look was finally in. And, at first I didn't really think much of it, but then I started really reflecting and being like, well, shit, like what? So now my body's accepted. So people want me all over their branding. And that was, something that really challenged me and also made me feel like I needed to be harder on myself around, how I wanted my body to look in these campaigns, or, in a bathing suit, or like, as like whenever you're in a modeling space, I feel like you're throwing yourself down a rabbit hole even harder because there's so many more people who are seeing you in the public eye. So Kels, I want to hear about your journey. Give us a little bit of an overview, and then we'll dive deeper into some of the different, concepts we're going to chat about today. But, what has your experience been like navigating, your unique body and how you've experienced that through the ages? Where are you at now?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I grew up on a farm, and I was the youngest of 4 kids and very active in our lifestyle. And I was very much, I followed my older brother around a lot at the time. And so I didn't really start paying attention to body image until I guess all of us kind of start into that a bit more in our junior high to high school years. And I have always I've always prided myself on loving my body and being comfortable in my own skin, and it not mattering what I look like on the outside, but it matters what I look like on the inside. And that has been a huge part of the way that I associate with my body throughout my lifetime. But it's been, I truly believe that we all go through a second puberty in our 20s, that like our faces change into adulthood, and we like our eyes settle in a little bit more. And so it's an interesting time to go through 20s, thinking that in your early 20s you think kind of that you've made it somewhere, that you've established who you are, and then by the time you're entering into your 30s, everything's changing again. And never mind if you've had children, as a woman, that's an entirely different shift to your body. And so that's been a very, very interesting experience to just have recently gone through. And I did want to say that, like, part of being someone who prides themselves on not caring about their body image, the way that the society determines a body should be. I've never subscribed to that. I never have subscribed my friends to that. It has been fascinating for me to watch my body shift in ways that I enjoy and to take pride and pleasure in that. And then on the other side, to watch my body shift into things that I don't enjoy, and feeling like, well, I'm a person who loves my body. I'm a person who doesn't care what society thinks about my body, and so I'm supposed to enjoy my body no matter what. So am I being hypocritical if my body has changed in a way that I don't love? Is It's kind of actually what I'm going through right now. And so I did want to say to our audience, and also acknowledging the space that you've created here, Jazz, is that I don't find talking about body image in a casual setting very helpful. It's not a topic that I bring up in social settings and with my girlfriends. It's um, the thing about our bodies is it's a very individual experience, and our bodies become very politicized as women. Whatever form of woman you are, you have a very politicized body in this world. And that's kind of across the globe. It's across the board, which is terrifying in a lot of ways. And so when we're talking one-on-one, or talking in a group and saying, if I am, oh, I don't know, putting myself down because of the way that my body looks, well, your body might look that very way. And so then you might be thinking, well, is Kelsey saying this about my body? And so that's kind of why I don't choose to talk about body image in casual settings. And there are a very small handful of my friends that I will bring it up with if I'm struggling with something, but it's actually something that I've chosen to take to counseling, because it's a unbiased third party perspective. And actually, like, this person on the other side of the phone during COVID can't see me. My therapist has never seen me. And so we're just talking about my experience with my body. And so I did want to acknowledge, just here and with our community, that Jazz and I have entered into this conversation with consent and with gratitude and with grace. But then it's a sensitive topic. And so if at any point that, as an audience member, you feel like it's something that you need to step away from, then I definitely encourage that.
Thank you for sharing that, Kels, and for including that statement, because I think, yeah, I feel like sometimes we also are not mentally ready to sometimes enter these conversations, or start kind of navigating them more. And I think that's really important. I think that's something that we should always state, is like, if you are not comfortable moving forward with this conversation, like, come back at a later time when you're ready. Because and this is a note I made, because body image plays a huge role on your mental health. And if you are not feeling healthy in the conversation, then you need to end it. And something that you pointed at there, like in talking about body image in casual settings, one of the things that we both observed, living here in India, is that body image is constantly challenged so forwardly. Like, we have aunties and uncles, they see you after like a couple months and they're like, oh, you've gained weight, or oh, you lost weight, you need to eat more, or it's just such a part of the culture to address weight and image, and like, you know, like I've had aunties tell me like, oh, your hair looks bad, or like your hair is oily, or like your hair needs oil, you know, like it's such an openly discussed topic. And it's beautiful to see the young generation coming in and being like, listen, like this is not okay. Like, fuck off. You have no say over like what my body looks like, how I want to be seen. And I don't want to have this conversation with you. But obviously, like, as our generation of badasses like try and challenge that status quo, you know, it is a mental health issue, because like you can go and visit your family, like, you know, your aunties and uncles, and pay respect. And like, if you're constantly being told, they're constantly just throwing comments and statements at you and like suggestions of what to do about like your body image, it's like, enough already. This is not your place. So Kels, I'm curious, bringing in kind of like a cultural aspect. What were maybe some of the challenges for you, or maybe some lived experiences that you faced while you were here that challenged, how you felt confident in your body throughout your time here? Because it was a long time, and we both went through some big transitions with like with body, and it just sitting on the roof eating like three containers of cookies, to like exercising like week after week. You know, we were constantly being challenged. We're challenging ourselves and then being challenged by our community because they were so forward about it. So what were some of your experiences, takeaways from that experience?
Well, one of the things that I think is most fascinating is that throughout this past winter, you and I both dropped a lot of weight really quickly. And then in February had like friends and family and loved ones comment on it quite a bit in a congratulatory and like loving manner. And my go-to response for that was just like, oh, this is not a healthy representation of our lifestyle. Like, we have been stressed, we have been working, we have been like, there have been kind of insurmountable obstacles that we've had to try and navigate, and a lot of conflict. And like, sometimes we will eat really well and make food for each other in the house, and make sure that we're as like on target and working out. And other days we'll go a full day without eating a proper meal, and it'll just be like peanut butter toast with banana, right? Like, so
and samosas.
And samosas, shorty please. And that thing happens a lot. I've had friends who in Canada have been ill, who've been sick, and their coworkers would just comment on it like flippantly and say, oh my goodness, you look amazing. And this person's like, yeah, I can't move. Like, I can't move properly. My back is messed up, or like whatever it is. Or if it's a mental health issue. And so that's one of the things that I find so fascinating in the way that our bodies are narrated in society. And I would use that word narration because the other thing that we see in India all the time, for women specifically, is that they have to look a certain way before shadi, before their marriage. And then after they get married, it's this like sign of, well, I made it, if you gain a lot of weight. And also like that transition isn't always healthy either. And we've seen that happen time and time again, right?
Yeah.
So there's all of these different narrations going on that are outside of ourselves, when body image is this personal thing. And one of the things in my lived experience is I actually went to fashion school for 3 years in my early 20s. And it was kind of a surprise to me, but it ended up being something that I completely love. And it was out of this desire to, like, I could sketch designs, but I wanted to be able to make them real. And our entire learning throughout that whole course is couture clothing. So it's made for the individual. And so I learned how to take measurements from myself, put them onto 2D paper, and then put that into 3D fabric and be able to wear it and be able, and for it to look flattering on me. And like our school, one of the first things they said is there's no such thing as body shape. Like, take the pear shape and the curve shape and the hourglass shape. Like, it's your shape, it's your body. And the what we are given to consume, and we are consumerist culture in fast fashion, is that fast fashion is, how can I make the most out of this material or this work or this person or this anything, right? And so if we tweak the sizes, so that we can use less fabric, and that we can tell people who are buying clothes, oh, well, but if you're that tall, you shouldn't be that wide. Or if you're that short, you definitely shouldn't be that wide, and you need to have a smaller waist. And all of these ways that sizing is made in fast fashion is, you have an average size, let's go size 8, and then they build up from that, and they build down from that to get the other sizes. And it doesn't take into account that bodies are individual. And so you get clothing that doesn't fit, and clothing that gets wrecked, and clothing that is uncomfortable. And that uncomfortability as you're wearing it isn't, oh, this company made this clothing incorrectly. As you're wearing it, you're saying to yourself, oh, my body is made incorrectly.
That's so, so powerful, because like I can recall the first time I felt that, and I was in 6th grade. As someone of Caribbean descent, my body is very much like my father's side of the family. I'm very like dense bones, like very athletic shape. I definitely can fluctuate a little bit, but like I've been the same size since I was in 6th grade. So imagine how insecure I was in 6th grade, having like a fully developed booty and these like thighs that could just like break necks, and trying to find pants at shops. Oh my God, what shops existed in 6th grade? I can't even remember. But I'm like, oh God. But I remember my mother.
Ditches.
Yes, yeah. Sirens, like puke. But like I remember being so like distraught that like I couldn't wear the same pants that all of my white friends were wearing. And I also grew up in like a very white community, so it was really hard for me to connect with diverse body types other than with my family. And they were in different areas of like outside of the Toronto area. So I was kind of associating that like I needed to look a certain way in this certain community that I was living in. And when my mom had to buy me, that's right, I owned apple bottom jeans when I was in 6th grade. But those were, yeah, like I'm like literally a Flow Rider song. I finally had a pair of jeans that fit me correctly. And I remember my mom, I think, this was definitely something that my mom was consciously doing. Like she would, when I came home with clothing, like, apple bottom jeans and things that like, my friends obviously weren't wearing, or even my, my mom's side of the family wasn't wearing, she would make me like model the clothing around the house. And, her goal was like to make me feel like so fabulous in this clothing. Right. And, that definitely, it helped, but like, obviously it was an individual journey, but like at the same time, every day I'm still doing things like straightening my hair so I can fit in with my white community, or, still like looking at my butt and being like, oh my God, it's too big. Like no one's butt looks like this. And, you know, trying to hide it with like long t-shirts and stuff like that at a young age. And, you know, obviously as I've aged, being comfortable with my body in clothing, has definitely been a challenge. And I think when I finally started to get comfortable in certain items, and then realized living in India that those certain items weren't always necessarily appropriate in so many situations. So, you know, when I am in like, you know, more conservative areas or with, you know, family gatherings and stuff, I'm obviously having to wear things that I don't feel comfortable in. But, you know, suit the dynamic of the situation, whether that's like a Punjabi suit or, you know, needing to cover certain aspects of my body so that they're not emphasized in any way. And that, you know, one of those things being my butt. And, you know, and thinking about also going on the cultural side of this, you know, as someone who's also traveled extensively and like been, when I was in West Africa, when I was visiting Ghana, you know, I remember for the first time really seeing the reverse in, like I've always, like my Caribbean side of the family, you know, again, still very diverse bodies, but there's definitely like a lot of stereotypes or characteristics that are similar about all of our bodies. However, in Ghana, you know, I get there and, you know, bigger women are the ones that are actually celebrated. You know, bigger women, that's like a sign of health and wealth. And, you know, men are, you know, the first thing that you want to do when you take out a woman is you want to buy her like a big ass meal. And it's like, you know, if we brought that into our culture in Canada, where like, you know, I remember friends being like so nervous about ordering food on a first date because they were like terrified of like connecting with food and their body and like expressing the kind of foods that they love. Like the amount of times I've, you know, especially and that's perpetuated also in like mainstream media as well, like in cinema, like these women who go on dates and like just eat salads, you know, and that's a bigger problem than we even realize, because if we're constantly consuming that media and then thinking like, oh shit, I need to be doing that as well, I shouldn't be showcasing how much I love food or my relationship with food in my relationships, you're already setting very unhealthy boundaries for yourself in that relationship, because how are you now going to navigate that journey with that person if you decide to move forward in that partnership? If you already set a standard, or, you know, you've already brought an insecurity into the relationship and now need to navigate it individually before you navigate it as a partnership. So those are just some additional thoughts, but I'm thank you so much for speaking on fashion though, because I think it's really, really important to talk about accessibility in clothing for diverse body types. And, you know, I think we all know it's there, but we don't address it as openly as we should.
100%, 100%. And tying that into your ancestry and your heritage, this idea of like Western culture being, like Western culture wants to be global culture. And there's a amazing TED Talk called Dangers of a Single Story that says that the majority of the stories that we hear in media, in music, and even if you look at the people who are uploading videos on YouTube, the majority of them are Western. And so this idea of body image, the idea of the goal weight, even the idea that like you want to get to a target in your body and then stay there, is a form of white supremacy, because our bodies are meant to move, our bodies are meant to shift, the climate is always shifting, the earth is always shifting. We are created, even if you like, let's break it down, make it super simple, and let's look at the way that dogs' hair will shed from the transition between winter and summer. That is not staying the same, right? Or if we're looking at bears who hibernate, they pack on the pounds for the long sleep through the winter. And there's this idea that bodies can shift with the needs of the environment around them. And our bodies are this wild thing that's meant to be ever changing and adapting, and whether that's with our mental health or with our lifestyles. And the idea that it's supposed to be this one story, this dangerous single story, is a form of white supremacy.
It's interesting because I find still, as a woman of color, I still struggle with navigating, like, okay, what is this challenge? What is this problem rooted in? Why do I feel like I am not represented? Why do I feel like I'm constantly challenging my own mental health to fit into kind of a norm or a stereotype, when in reality, yes, it is a form of white supremacy. And thank you for noting that. And I've been listening to a lot of talks, and I actually just did an interview with Shraddha Kochar, who is the founder of Loda India, a fashion label here in India. And we were talking about decolonizing design. And that kind of went deeper into the root of, like, the agricultural history of India, and talking about how, like, colonialism, that is, like, deeply rooted in basically the fuck-uppery of like agriculture here in India in regards to, like, cotton production, and, like, completely wiping out indigenous crops that were used for textiles. And I also just recently listened to another podcast, Green Dreamer. I absolutely love that podcast, with Aditi Mayer, who's another South Asian woman that I absolutely fangirl over because of just her. She really knows how to break down the fashion industry and the fact that it does need to fully be decolonized, and, like, talking about even just, she works more on, like, the garment worker side, and, like, freedom and human rights for garment workers, especially in Los Angeles where she resides. And it is fucking fascinating the way that we actually see this trend of we actually need to decolonize almost every industry for us to actually start diving deeper into our understanding of these topics, how they affect us individually, and then build them back up to build inclusive, not just industries, but build inclusion in these conversations, because we're lacking so many diverse voices and people of color, the BIPOC community, even the LGBTQ plus community, are always going to be the minority in these topics if we don't include more of their voices. And, I know in this situation, going forward with Curated Consciously podcast, I'm taking that role as the BIPOC, and we'll be bringing on more BIPOC and LGBTQ plus people into the conversation so that we can have more diversity in these conversations. However, it's very clear that we also need people who are within the majority, the white population majority, to also openly be discussing, like, hey, I'm recognizing that these are the problems. These are some of the things that are happening, and then here are some of the solutions. So, like, Kelsey, this is why, as someone, well, I fucking love you in general, but, just someone who can come into the conversation and be like, hey, like, I recognize as a Caucasian human that, like, these are the issues that we're facing, and I want to be part of the conversation so that I can understand what the challenges are from all angles, and then also help be part of the solution. So I'm curious to kind of wind us down. What do you think are some of the solutions moving forward? So, like, for example, how do we address body image in casual settings? What do you think are ways that, we can be more inclusive and respectful of our, even our intimate connections, whether that's like family, friends, partners? What are maybe some of the things that we can implement into our language to make sure that we are not, fueling the fire when it comes to body image and its connection to, like, social and political movement?
I mean, that's a heavy task you've given me there. But I would say there are a couple strategies that I use. And one of them is that it is never okay to comment flippantly on someone else's body or their appearance. I would say that it's, it's akin to, well, it's something like the only time that you can enter into that conversation is when that person has entrusted you with it. And so that would be, I don't know, what are the things that we could consider off topic unless someone brings it up with us, like sex life, like it's off limit to say like even the, I mean, we know how problematic it is to be like, oh, if you lost weight is not, it doesn't help anybody for any reason. And so that would be one side. And then if we are entering into, if there is that consent there, and if we are entering into conversation of body image in a social setting, then it's something that has to be consensual all the way through. And it's something that like I've never understood self-deprecating humor. It's not appealing to me at all. Because it's very surface, and so I want to know what's going on underneath. And I think that those are the more important conversations, and those are the more important settings that we can get at. Oh, well, like, you said that thing, don't talk about my best friend that way. But also what's going on underneath. How can we address what's going on underneath?
What I'm hearing is not intentionally entering those conversations without first asking for consent unless the other person brings it up. What about if it's something that you want to discuss? So let's say, like, I'm like, Kelsey, I really want to chat about some of the shifts I've seen in my body recently. Is there maybe a better approach for like bringing, if you want to start that conversation, how do you invite someone to be part of that with you?
I would need that person to like understand if I'm bringing it up with them, it's because I trust that they know that it's somebody that I can have this conversation with. And like I said, there's only a few of those. And like one of them just had a baby, so I wouldn't be bringing up like body image with her because she's going through a whole different experience with her body. And so that's like that mutual kind of awareness. But one of the things that I'm trying to implement for myself is that although I have this idea of me being this person who always loves their body, and I'm body positive, and I'm all for all different kinds of bodies, I also need to accept that there are things about my body that I'm not gonna love, and I can still have a caring and loving and gentle relationship with my body, and there be aspects of it that I want to work on and things that I want to pay closer attention to. And so accepting that my body is carrying me through the world, and that's a powerful thing that it's giving me every day, and that maybe there are things that I can change that are within my control, and maybe there are things that I can't change that aren't within my control. And so just treating my body kind of like a different entity unto myself, kind of like a child, and being like, oh, you threw a tantrum today, and I am not putting up with that, right? But you still love your child even if they're screaming. But you're not going to put up with that. So that's really helped me in trying to move forward in my relationship with my body right now when there's things that I don't love.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that, it's, again, like we said, it's an individual journey, and it's a lifelong journey, because your body is going through changes constantly. And, you know, especially for people who travel, like you see how many shifts your body goes through just in like changing weather patterns, like after like 1 week, you know? So it's, you have to remember that, you know, your body is also, it's also your vessel for
It's a vessel.
yeah, for just, you know, leading you through life. Like you have to look at yourself from also a soul level. And when you start connecting deeper within yourself and finding the things that you love about yourself internally, like I know this is really like cliche for me to say, but it is like you do need to love yourself from within before you love yourself just on the outside, because loving yourself just on the outside isn't enough. It needs to, you're a full ecosystem. And you know, there's gonna be parts of you always that you love, and there's gonna be parts of you that you maybe don't and wanna work on, and that is okay. And that is a journey that you need to go on, but you can't let it get in the way of your happiness. So, you know, if that means that you like need to go to the gym 4 days a week, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, go. If that's what helps you in your mental health journey and the connection to your body, do what you gotta do. If, you know, if you simply just cannot live without something sweet in the day, which is me, like I need to have something sweet at the end of the day, regardless of how much junk food I ate all day. Like, you know, do what you need to do to nurture yourself. Because at the end of the day, like, this is you're placed on this planet for a very short amount of time. Enjoy it while it lasts, and don't spend every day waking up thinking about these things that are so small in comparison to the experiences that you that your body lets you have. So that's Jasmine's little cheesy conclusion.
Reach.
Pew, 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 snap, snap, snap. I saw you snapping in the background.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Thank you for opening up this space.
Thank you for sharing this space with me. You know, this is a topic obviously that we navigate and discuss quite often together. But I'm so grateful that we're able to have this conversation and we're comfortable enough to bring it out into the open, you know, help our community start more conversations around this. And of course, you know, if you guys are interested in like connecting with us to talk more about this, or there's a specific, you know, topic within, you know, the body image world that you'd like to cover, or, you know, come on the podcast to chat about, like, we're here, hit us up. Kels, thank you so much for your time today. I'm so grateful for you and your wisdom and all of the amazing goodness that you are able to share with your intimate community, as well as the greater community within Curated Consciously. So thank you so much.
Oh goodness, my pleasure.